Chapter 2, Land of Pure Life. Chinardhwaj, the governor of Kashmir, wanted to broadcast to the entire world that the Nilkant had appeared in his capital city, not in other frontier towns like Takshila, Karachapa, or Lothal, his Srinagar. But the bird courier had arrived almost immediately from the Melhuian capital Devagiri, the abode of gods. The orders were crystal clear. The news of the arrival of the Nilkant had to be kept secret until the emperor himself had seen Shiva. Chinardhwaj was ordered to send Shiva along with an escort to Devagiri. Most importantly, Shiva himself was not to be told about the legend. The emperor will advise the supposed Nilkant in an appropriate manner, were the exact word in the message. Chinardhwaj had the privilege of the informing Shiva about the journey. Shiva, though, was not in the most amiable of moods. He was utterly perplexed by the sudden division of every Melhuian around him. Since he had been transferred to gubernatorial residence where he lived in luxury, only the most important citizen of Srinagar had access to. Since he had been transferred to the gubernatorial residence where he lived in luxury, only the most important citizens of Srinagar had access to him. My lord, we will be escorting you to Devgiri, our capital. It is a few weeks' journey from here, said Chinardhawaj as he struggled to bend his enormous and muscular frame lower than he ever had. I am not going till somebody tells me what is going on. What the hell is this damn legend of Neelkant? Shiva asked angrily. My lord, please have faith in us. You will know the truth soon. The emperor himself will tell you when you reach Devgiri. And what about my tribe? They will be given lands right here in Kashmir, my lord. All the resources that they need to lead a comfortable life will be provided for. Are they being held hostage? Oh no, my lord, said a visibly disturbed Chinardhawaj. They are your tribe, my lord. If I had my way, they would live like nobility for the rest of their lives. But the laws cannot be broken, my lord, not even for you. We can only give them what had been promised. In the course of time, my lord, you can decide to change the laws you feel necessary. Then we could certainly accommodate them anywhere. Please, my lord, pleaded Nandi, have faith in us. You cannot imagine how important you are to Meluha. We have been waiting for a very long time for you. We need your help. Please help me, please. The memory of another desperate play from a distraught woman years ago returned to haunt Shiva as he was stunned into the silence. Your destiny is much larger than these massive mountains. Nonsense. I don't deserve any destiny. If these people knew my guilt, they would stop this bullshit instantly. I don't know what to do, Budra. Shiva was sitting in the royal gardens on the bank of the Dal lake while his friend sat at his side, carefully filling some marjuna into a chilam. As used the lit stick to bring the chilam to life, Shiva said impatiently, that's a clue for you to speak, you fool. No, that's actually a cue for me to hand you the chilam, Shiva. Why will you not counsel me? Asked Shiva in anguish. We are still the same friend who never made a move without consulting each other. Bhadra smiled. No, we are not. You are a chief now. The tribe lives and dies by your decisions. It cannot be corrupted by any other personal influence. We are not like Pakriyatas, where the chief has to listen to whoever is the loudmouth on their council. Only the chief's wisdom is supreme amongst the Ganas. That is our tradition. Shiva raised his eyes in exasperation. Some traditions are meant to be broken. Bhadra stayed silent, stretching his hand. Shiva grabbed the chilam from Bhadra. He took one deep puff, letting the marijuana spread its munificence into his body. I have heard just one line about the legend of Nilkanth, said Bhadra. Apparently, Melhua is in deep trouble and only the Nilkanth can save them. But I can't seem to see any trouble out here. Everything seems perfect. If they want to see real trouble, we should take them to our land. Bhadra laughed slightly. But what is it about the blue throat that make them believe you can save them? Damned if I know. They are so much more advanced than us, and yet they worship me like I am some god, just because of this blessed blue throat. I think their medicine are magical though. Have you noticed that the hump on my back has reduced a little bit? Yes, it has. Their doctors are seriously gifted. You know, their doctors are called Brahmins. Like Ayurvati? Asked Shiva, passing the chilam back to Bhadra. Yes, but the Brahmins don't just cure people. They're also teachers, liars, priests, basically any intellectual profession. Talented people, sniffed Shiva. That's not all, said Bhadra, in a between a long inhalation. They have a concept of specialization. So, in addition to Brahmins, they have a group called Kshatriyas, who are the warriors and rulers. Even the women can be Kshatriyas. Really? They allow women into their army? Well, apparently there aren't too many female Kshatriya, but yes, they are allowed into the army. No wonder they are in trouble. The friends laughed loudly at the strange view of Meluhans. Bhadra took another puff from the chilam before continuing his story. And then they have Vaishyas, who are craftsmen, traders, and business people. And finally, the Shudras, who are the farmers and workers. And one caste cannot do another caste's job. Hang on, said Shiva. That means that since you are a warrior, you would not be allowed to trade at the marketplace. Yes, bloody stupid. How would you get me my marijuana? After all, that is the only thing you are useful for. Shiva leaned back to avoid the playful blow from Bhadra. All right, take it easy. He laughed, stretching out. He grabbed the chilam from Bhadra and took another deep drag. We are talking about everything except what we should be talking about. Shiva becomes serious again. But seriously, strange as they are, what should I do? What are you thinking of doing? Shiva looked away, as if contemplating the roses in the far corner of the garden. I don't want to run away once again. What? Asked Bhadra, not hearing Shiva's tormented whisper clearly. I said, repeated Shiva loudly, I can't bear the guilt of running away once again. That wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. Bhadra fell silent. There was nothing that could be said. Covering his eyes, Shiva sighed once again. Yes, it was. Bhadra put his hand on his friend's shoulder, pressing it gently, letting the terrible moment pass. Shiva turned his face. I'm asking for advice, my friend. What should I do? If they need my help, I can't turn away from them. At the same time, how can I leave our tribe all by themselves out here? What should I do? Bhadra continued to hold Shiva's shoulder. He breathed deeply. He could think of an answer, It may have been the correct answer for Shiva, his friend, but was it the correct answer for the Shiva, the leader? You have to find the wisdom yourself, Shiva. This is the tradition. Oh, the hell with you. Shiva threw the chillum back at Bhadra and stormed away. It was only a few days later that a minor caravan consisting of Shiva, Nandi, and three soldiers was scheduled to leave Srinagar. The small party would ensure that they moved quickly through the realm and reached Devgiri as soon as possible. Governor Chinardhvaj was anxious for Shiva to be recognized quickly by the empire as the true Nilkant. He wanted to go down in the history as the governor who found the Lord. Shiva had been made presentable for the emperor. His hairs had been oiled and smoothed. Lines of expensive clothes, attractive earrings, necklaces, and other jewelries were brought to adorn his muscular frame. His fair face had been scrubbed clean with a special Ayurvedic herb to remove years of dead skin and decay. A cravat had been fabricated out of cotton to cover his glowing blue throat. Beads had been cleverly drained onto the cravat to make it look like the traditional necklace that Meluhan man wore while on the religious exercise. The cravat felt warm on his still cold throat. I will be back soon, said Shiva as he hugged Bhadra's mother. He was amazed that the old lady's limp was little less noticeable. Their medicines are truly magical. As the more so, Bhadra looked at him. Shiva whispered, take care of the tribe. You are in charge till I come back. Bhadra stepped back, stared. Shiva, you don't have to that just because I'm your friend. I have to do it, you fool. And the reason I have to do it that you are more capable than me. Bhadra stepped up and embraced Shiva, lest his friend noticed the tear in his eyes. No, Shiva, I am not, not even my dreams. Shut up. Listen to me carefully, said Shiva, as Bhai smiled sadly. I don't think the Ganas are at any risk out here, at least not as much as we are at the Mount Kailas. But then, if you feel you need help, ask Ayurvati. I saw her tribe. I saw her when the tribe was ill. She showed tremendous commitment to save us all. She is worth trusting. Bhadra nodded, hugged Shiva again, and left the room. Ayurvati knocked politely on the door. May I come in, my lord? This was the first time she had come into his presence since that fateful moment 7 days back. It seemed like a lifetime to her, though she appeared to be her confident self again. There was a slightly different look about her. She had the appearance of someone who had been touched by the divine. Come in, Ayurvati, and please, none of this lord business. I am still the same uncouth immigrant you met a few days ago. I am sorry about that comment, my lord. It was wrong of me to say that, and I am willing to accept any punishment that you may deem fit. What's wrong with you? What should I punish you for? Speaking the truth? Why should this bloody blue throat change anything? You will discover the reason, my lord, whispered Ayurvati with her head bowed. We have waited for centuries for you. Centuries? In the name of the holy lake? Why? What can I do that any of you smart people can't? The emperor will tell you, my lord. Suffice it to say that from all that I have heard from your tribe, if there is one person worthy of being the Nilkant, it is you. Speaking of my tribe, I have told them that if they need any help, they can request you. I hope that is all right. It would be my honor to provide any assistance to them, my lord. Saying this, she bent down to touch Shiva's feet in the traditional Indian form of showing respect. Shiva had resigned himself to accepting this gesture from most Meluhians, but immediately stepped back as Ayurvati bent down. What the hell are you doing, Ayurvati? Asked a horrified Shiva. You are a doctor, a giver of life. Don't embarrass me by touching my feet. Ayurvati looked up at Shiva, her eyes shining with admiration and devotion. This was certainly a man worthy of being the Nilkant. Nandi entered Shiva's room carrying a saffron cloth with the word Ram stamped across every inch of it. He requested Shiva to wrap it around his shoulder. As Shiva compiled, Nandi muttered a quick short prayer for a safe journey to Devagiri. Our horses waited outside, my lord. We can leave when you are ready, said Nandi. Nandi, said an exasperated Shiva. How many times must I tell you? My name is Shiva. I am your friend, not your lord. Oh no, my lord, gasped Nandi. You are Nilkant. You are the lord. How can I take your name? Shiva rolled his eye, shook his head slightly, and turned towards the door. I gave up. Can we leave now? Of course, my lord. They stepped outside to see three mounted soldiers waiting patiently, while tethered close to them were three more horses, one each for Shiva and Nandi, while the third was assigned for carrying their provisions. The well organized Melhuian Empire had rest houses and provision stores spread across all major travel routes. As long as there were enough provision for just one day, a traveler carrying Meluhan coin could comfortably keep buying fresh provision to last a journey of month. Nandi's horse had been tethered next to a small platform. The platform had steps leading up to it from the other side. Clearly, this was the convenient infrastructure for obsessed riders who found it little cumbersome to climb onto a horse. Shiva looked at Nandi's enormous form, then at his unfortunate horse, and then back at Nandi. Aren't there any laws in Melhua against the cruelty to animals? Asked Shiva with the most sincere of expressions. Oh, yes, my lord, very strict laws. In Melhua, our life is precious. In fact, there are strict guidelines as to when and how animals can be slaughtered. And suddenly, Nandi stopped speaking. Shiva's joke had finally breached Nandi's slow wit. They both burst out laughing as Shiva slapped Nandi hard on his back. Shiva's entourage followed the course of Jhelum, which had resumed its thunderous roar as it crashed down the lower Himalaya. Once on the magnificent flat plains, the turbulent river calmed down once again and followed smoothly on. Smooth enough for the group to get on one of the many public transport barges to sail quickly down to the town of Britishpuram. From there on, they went east by a well led and marked road through Punjab, the heart of the empire's northern reaches. Punjab literally means the land of the five rivers, the land of the Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, and Byas. The four eastern rivers aspired to grasp the grand Indus, which flowed farthest to the west. They succeeded spectacularly after convoluted journeys on the rich plains of Punjab. The Indus itself found it comfort and scour in the enormous, all embracing ocean. The mystery of the ocean's final destination, though, was yet to be unraveled. What is Ram? Inquired Shiva as he looked down at the word covering every inch of his saffron cloth. The three accompanying soldiers rode at a polite distance behind Shiva and Nandi, far enough not to overhear any conversation, but close enough to move in quickly at the first sign of trouble. It was a part of their standard Meluhian service rule. Lord Rama was the emperor who established our way of life. My lord, replied Nandi. He lived around 1200 years ago. He created our system, our rules, our ideologies, everything. His reign is known simply as a Ramrajya or the rule of Rama. The term Ramrajya is considered to be the gold standard of how an empire must be administered to create a perfect life for all citizens. Melhua is still run according to his principles, Jai Shri Ram. He must have been quite a man, for he truly created a paradise right here on earth. Shiva did not lie when he said this. He truly believed that if there wasn't a paradise somewhere, it couldn't have been very different from Meluha. This was a land of abundance, of almost ethereal perfection. It was an empire ruled by clearly codified and just laws to which every Meluhian was subordinated, including the emperor. The country supported a population of nearly 8 million, which without exception seemed well fed, healthy, wealthy. The average intellect was exceptional high. They were a slightly serious people, but unfailingly polite and civil. It seemed to be a flawless society where everyone knew his role and played it perfectly. They were conscious, nay, obsessive about their duties. The simple truth hit Shiva. If the entire society was conscious of its duties, nobody would need to fight for their individual rights, since everybody's right would be automatically taken care of through someone else's duty. Lord Rama was a genius. Shiva too repeated Nandi's cry, signifying glory to Lord Rama, Jai Shri Rama. Having left their horses at the government authorized crossing houses, they crossed the river Ravi close to Hariyappa or the city of Hari. Shiva lingered there admiring Hariyappa at a slight distance, while his soldiers waited just beyond his shadow, having mounted their freshly allocated horses from the crossing house on the other side of Ravi. Hariyappa was a much larger city than Srinagar and seemed grand from outside. Shiva thought seriously about exploring the magnificent city, but that would have meant a delay in the trip of Devgiri. Next to the Hariyappa, Shiva saw a construction project being executed. A new platform was being erected as the Hariyappa had grown too populous to accommodate everyone on its existing platform. How the hell do they raise these magnificent platforms? Shiva made a mental note to visit the construction site on his return journey. At a distance, Jata, the captain of the river crossing house, was talking to Nandi while he was about to climb the platform to mount his fresh horse. Avoid the road via Jratakgiri, advised Jata. There was a terrorist attack there last night. All the Brahmins were killed and the village temple was destroyed. The terrorists escaped as usual before any backup soldiers could arrive. When in Lord Agni's name will we fight back? We should attack their country? Snarled a visible angry Nandi. I swear by Lord Indra, if I ever find one of these Chandravansi's terrorists, I will cut his body into minute pieces and feed it to the dogs, growled Jata, clenching his fist tight. Jata, we are followers of Suryavansis. We cannot even think of barbaric warfare such as that, said Nandi. Do the terrorists follow the rules of war when they attack us? Don't they kill unarmed men? That doesn't mean that we can act the same way, Captain. We are Meluhians, said Nandi, shaking his head. Jata did not counter Nandi. He was distracted by Shiva, still waiting at a distance. Is he with you? He asked. Yes. He doesn't wear a caste amulet. Is he a new immigrant? Yes, replied Nandi, getting uncomfortable answering question about Shiva. And you are going to Devagiri? Asked an increasingly suspicious Jata, looking harder towards Shiva's throat. I have heard some rumor coming from Srinagar. Nandi interrupted Jata suddenly. Thank you for your help, Captain Jata. Before Jata could act on his suspicion, Nandi quickly climbed the platform, mounted his horse, and rode towards Shiva. Reaching quickly, he said, We should leave, my lord. Shiva wasn't listening. He was perplexed once again as he saw the proud Captain Jata on his knees. Jata was looking directly at Shiva with his hand folded in respectful namaste. He appeared to be mumbling something very quickly. Shiva couldn't be sure from that distance, but it seemed that the captain was crying. He shook his head and whispered, Why? We should go, my lord, repeated Nanda a little louder. Shiva turned to him, nodded, and kicked his horse into action. Shiva looked to his left as he rode on the straight road, observing Nandi guiding his valiant horse along. He turned around and was not surprised to see his three bodyguard soldiers riding at exactly the same distance as before, not too close and yet not too far. He glanced back at Nandi, suspicious that the jewelry Nandi wore was not merely ornamental. He wore two amulets on his thick right arm. The first one had some symbolic lines which Shiva could not fathom. The second one appeared to have an animal itching, probably a bull. One of his gold chain had a pendant shaped like a perfectly circular sun with rays streaming outwards. The other pendant was a brown, elliptical seed like object with a small serration all over it. Can you tell me the significance of your jewelry? Or is that also a state secret? Teased Shiva. Of course I can, my lord, replied Nandi earnestly. He pointed at the first amulet that had been tied around his massive arm with a silky gold thread. This is the amulet which represents my caste. The lines drawn on it are a symbol of the soldiers of Paramatma, the Almighty. This means that I am a Kshatriya. I am sure there are clearly codified guidelines for representing the other caste as well. Right, you are, my lord. You are exceptionally intelligent. No, I am not. You people are just exceptionally predictable. Nandi smiled as Shiva continued. So, what are they? What are what, my lord? The symbol for Brahmins, Vaishya, and Shudra. Well, if the lines are drawn to represent the head of Paramatma, it would mean the wearer is Brahmin. The symbol for Vaishya would be the lines forming a symbol of thighs of Paramatma. And the feet of a Paramatma on the amulet would make the wearer a Shudra. Interesting, said Shiva with a slight frown. I imagine most Shudras are not too pleased about their placement. Nandi was quite surprised at Shiva's comment. He couldn't understand why a Shudra would have a problem with this long ordained symbol, but he kept quiet for a fear of disagreeing with his lord. And the other amulet? Asked Shiva. This second amulet depicts my chosen tribe. Each chosen tribe takes on job which fit its profile. Every Meluhan, under the advice of their parents, applies for a chosen tribe when they turn 25 years old. Brahmin choose from birds, while Kshatriya apply for animals. Flowers are allocated to Vaishyas, while Shudra must choose among fishes. The allocation board allocates the chosen tribe on the basis of a rigorous examination process. You must qualify for a chosen tribe that represent both your ambitions and skills. Choose a tribe that is too mighty and you will embarrass yourself throughout your life if your achievements don't measure up to the standard of the tribe. Choose a tribe too lowly and you will not be doing justice to your own talent. My chosen tribe is a bull. That is the animal that this amulet represents. And if I am not being rude, what does a bull mean in your rank of Kshatriya chosen tribe? Well, it's not as high as a lion, tiger, or an elephant, but it's not a rat or a pig either. Well, as far as I am concerned, the bull can beat any lion or elephant, smiled Shiva. And what about the pendant on your chain? The brown seed is representation of the last Mahadev, Lord Rudra. It symbolizes the protection and regeneration of life. Even divine weapon cannot destroy the life it protects. And the sun? My lord, the sun represents the fact that I am a follower of Suryavanshi king, the king who are the descendants of the sun. What? The sun came down and some queen? Teased an incredulous Shiva. Of course not, my lord, laughed Nandi. All it means is that we follow the solar calendar. So you could say that we are the follower of the path of sun. In practical terms, it denotes that we are strong and steadfast. We honor our word and keep our promises, even at the cost of our lives. We never break the law. We deal honorably even with those who are dishonorable. Like the sun, we never take from anyone but always give to others. We swear our duties into our consciousness so that we may never forget them. Being a Suryavanshi means that we must always strive to be honest, brave, and above all, loyal to the truth. A tall order. I assume that Lord Rama was a Suryavanshi king. Yes, of course, replied Nandi, his chest puffed up with pride. He was the Suryavanshi king. Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Ram, repeated Shiva. Nandi and Shiva crossed the river Byas on a boat. There, three soldiers waited to cross on the flowing raft. The Byas was the last river to be crossed, after which stretched the straight road towards Devagiri. Unseasonal rain the previous night had made the crossing house captain consider cancelling the day's crossing across the river. However, the weather had been relatively calm since the morning, allowing the captain to keep the service operational. Shiva and Nandi shared the boat with the two other passengers, as well as the boatmen who rowed them across. They had traded in their existing horses at the crossing houses for fresh horses on the other side. They were a short distance from the opposite bank when a sudden burst of torrential rain came down from the heavens. The winds took on a sudden ferocity. The boatman made a valiant effort to row quickly across it, but the boat tossed violently as it surrendered to the elements. Nandi stretched to tell Shiva to stay low for safety, but he did not do it gently enough. His considerable weight caused the boat to list dangerously, and he fell overboard. The boatman tried to steady the boat with his row to save the other passengers. Even as he did so, he had the presence of mind to pull out his conch and blow an emergency call to the crossing house on the other side. The other two passengers should have jumped overboard to save Nandi, but his massive build made them hesitate. They knew that if they tried to save him, they would most likely drown. Shiva felt no such hesitation as he quickly tossed aside his angvastram, pulled off his shoes, and dived into the turbulent river. Shiva swam with a powerful stroke and quickly reached a rapidly drowning Nandi. He had to use all of his considerable strength to pull Nandi to the surface. In spite of being buoyed by the water, Nandi weighed significantly more than what any normal man would. It was fortunate that Shiva felt stronger than ever since the first night at the Srinagar immigration camp. Shiva positioned himself behind Nandi and wrapped one arm around his chest. He used his other arm to swim to the bank. Nandi's weight made it very exhausting work, but Shiva was able to tow the Maluvian captain to the shore soon as the emergency staff from the crossing house came rapidly towards them. Shiva helped them drag Nandi's limp body on the land. He was unconscious. The emergency staff then began a stranger procedure. One of them started pressing Nandi's chest in a quick rhythmic motion to the count of 5. The moment he would stop, another emergency staff would cover Nandi's lip with his own and breathe hard into his mouth. Then they would repeat the procedure all over again. Shiva did not understand what was going on but trusted both the knowledge as well as the commitment of Maluhian medical personnel. After several anxious moments, Nandi suddenly coughed up a considerable amount of water and woke up with a start. At first he was disoriented, but he quickly regained his wits and turned abruptly towards Shiva, screeching, "My lord, why did you jump in after me? Your life is too precious. You must never risk it for me." As surprised, Shiva supported Nandi's back and whispered calmly, "You need to relax, my friend." Agreeing with Shiva, the medical staff quickly placed Nandi on a stretcher to carry him into the rest house that was attached to the crossing house. The other boat passengers were looking at Shiva with increasingly curiosity. They knew that the fat man was a relatively senior Suryavanshi soldier, judging by his amulet. Yet he called this fair caste unmarked man his lord. Strange. But all that mattered was that the soldier was safe. They dispersed as Shiva followed the medical staff into the rest house. Chapter 3. She enters his life. Nandi lay in a semi conscious state for several hours as the medicines administered by the doctors worked on his body. Shiva sat by his side, repeatedly changing the wet cloth on his burning forehead to control the fever. Nandi kept babbling incoherently as he tossed and turned in his sleep, making Shiva's task that much more difficult. "I have been searching long, so long, 100 years, never thought I find Neelkant. Jai Shri Ram." Shiva tried to ignore Nandi's babble as he focused on keeping the fever down, but his ears had caught on to something. "He's been searching for 100 years?" Shiva frowned. "The fever's affecting his bloody brain. He doesn't look a day older than 20 years. I have been searching for 100 years," continued the obsessive Nandi. I found Neelkant." Shiva stopped for a moment and stared hard at Nandi. Then, shaking his head dismissively, he continued his ministration. Shiva had been walking on a paved, sign-posted road along the river Byas for the better part of an hour. He had left the rest house to explore the area by himself, much against a rapidly recovering Nandi's advice. Nandi was out of danger, but they had to wait for a few days nevertheless so that the captain could be strong enough to travel. There was not much Shiva could do at the rest house, and he had begun to feel restless. The three soldiers had tried to shadow Shiva, but he had angrily dismissed them. "Will you please stop trying to stick to me like leeches?" The rhythmic hymns sung by the gentle waters of Byas soothed Shiva. A cool, tender breeze teased his thick lock of hairs. He rested his hand on the hilt of his scabbard as his mind swelled with persistent questions. Is really Nandi more than 100 years old? But that's impossible. And what the hell do these scrappy Meluhians need me for anyway? And why, in the name of the holy lake, is my bloody throat still feeling so cold? Lost in his thoughts, Shiva did not realize that he had strayed off the road into a clearing. Staring him in the face was the most beautiful building he had ever seen. It was built entirely with a white and pink marble. An imposing flight of the stairs led up to the top of a high platform by a giant triangular spire, like a giant namaste to the god. Elaborate sculptures were carved upon every available space on the structure. Shiva had spent many days in Meluha, and all the buildings he had seen so far were functional and efficient. However, this particular one was oddly flamboyant. At the entrance, a signpost announced Temple of Lord Brahma. The Meluhan appeared to reserve their creativity for religious places. There was a small crowd of hawkers around the courtyard in the clearing. Some were selling flowers, others were selling food. Still others were selling assorted items required for a puja. There was a stall where worshippers could leave their footwear as they went up to the temple. Shiva left his shoes there and walked up the step. Entering the main temple, he stared at the design and sculpture, mesmerized by the sheer magnificence of the architecture. What are you doing here? Shiva turned around to find a pandit staring at him quizzically. His wizened face sported a flowing white beard matched in a lengthy only by his sliveried mane. Wearing a saffron dhoti and angvastram, he had the calm, gentle look of a man who had already attained nirvana, but had chosen to remain on earth to fulfill some heavenly duties. Shiva realized that the Pandit was the first truly old person that he had seen in Meluha. I'm sorry, am I not allowed in here? Asked Shiva politely. Of course you are allowed in here. Everyone is allowed into the house of gods. Shiva smiled. Before he could respond, however, the Pandit questioned again. But you don't believe in these gods, do you? Shiva's smile Shiva's smile disappeared as quickly as it came. How the hell does he know? The Pandit answered the questions in Shiva's eye. Everyone who enters this place of worship looks only at the idol of Lord Brahma. Almost nobody noticed the effort and the brilliance of the architect who builds this lovely temple. You, however, have eyes only for the work of architects. You have not yet cast even a glance upon the idol. Shiva grinned apologetically. You guessed right. I don't believe in symbolic God. I believe that real God exists all around us. In the flow of a river, in the rustle of the trees, in the whisper of the wind. He speaks to us all the time. All we need to do is listen. However, I apologize if I have caused some offense in not showing proper respect for your God. You don't need to apologize. My friend, smiled the Pandit. There is no your God or my God. All godliness come from the same source, just as the manifestations are different. But I have a feeling that one day you will find a temple worth walking into just for prayer, not to admire its beauty. Really? Which temple might that be? You will find it when you are ready, my friend. Why do these Meluians always talk in bizarre riddles? Shiva nodded politely, his expression pretending an appreciation for the Pandit's words that he did not truly feel. He thought it wise to flee the temple before his welcome was stretched any further. It's time to get back to my rest house now, Panditji. But I eagerly look forward to finding the temple of my destiny. It was a pleasure meeting you, said Shiva, as he bent down to touch the Pandit's feet. Vishishta. Shiva rose, turned, and walked down the steps. Looking at Shiva walking away from him, clearly out of earshot, the Pandit whispered with an admiring smile, for he had recognized his fellow traveller in karma. The pleasure was all mine, my Karmasati. Shiva reached the shoe stall, out on his shoes, and offered a coin for the service. The shoekeeper politely declined. Thank you, sir, but this is a service provided by the government of Melhua. There is no charge for it. Shiva smiled. Of course, you people have a system of everything. Thank you. The shoekeeper smiled back. We are only doing our duty, sir. Shiva walked back to the temple steps. As he sat down, he breathed in it deeply and let the tranquil atmosphere suffice him with its serenity. And then it happened. The moment that every unrealized heart carves for, the unforgettable instant that a soul clinging onto the purest memory of its previous life longs for, the second that, in spite of the conspiracy of the gods, only a few lucky men experience, the moment when she enters his life. She rode in on a chariot, guiding the horses expertly into the courtyard, while a lady companion by her side held on to the railings. Although her black hair was tied in an understated bun, a few irreverent strands danced a spellbinding kathak in the wind. Her piercingly magnetic blue eyes and bronzed skin were an invitation for jealousy from the goddesses. Her body, though covered demurely in a long angvastram, still ignited Shiva's imagination enough to sense the lovely curves which lay beneath. Her flawless face was a picture of concentration as she maneuvered the chariot skillfully into its parking place. She dismounted the chariot with an air of confidence. It was a calm confidence which had not covered the ugly distance towards arrogance. Her walk was dignified, stately enough to let a beholder know that she was detached, but not cold. Shiva stared at her like a parched piece of earth, mesmerized by a passing rain cloud. Have a mercy on me, my lady. I still feel it's not wise to wander so far from the rest of your entourage, said her companion. She answered, Kritika, just because others don't know the law doesn't mean that we can ignore it. Lord Rama clearly stated that once a year a pious woman has to visit Lord Brahma. I will not break that law, no matter how inconvenient it is to the bodyguards. The lady noticed Shiva staring at her as she passed by him. Her delicate eyebrows arched into surprised and annoyed frown. Shiva made a valiant attempt to tear his glance away, but realized that his eyes were no longer in his control. She continued walking up, followed by Kritika. She turned around at the top of the temple steps to see the caste, unmarked immigrant at a distance, still staring at her unabashedly before turning to walk into the main temple. She muttered to Kritika, these uncouth immigrants, as if we will find our savior amongst these barbarians. It was only when she was out of sight that Shiva could breathe again. as he desperately was no way he was leaving the temple before getting another look at her. He sat down on the step once again. As his breathing and heartbeat returned to normal, he finally began to notice the surroundings that had been consecrated by her recent presence. He stared once again at the road on the left from where she had turned in. She had ridden past the cucumber seller standing near the banyan tree. Incidentally, why is the cucumber seller not trying to honk his wares? He just seemed to be staring at the temple. Anyway, it is not any of my concern. He followed the path that her chariot had taken, as it had swerved to its left around the fountain at the center of the courtyard. It had then taken to a sharp right turn past the shepherds standing at the entrance of the garden. Incidentally, where were these shepherds' sheep? Shiva continued to look down the path the chariot had taken into the parking lot. Next to the chariot stood another man who had just walked into the temple complex, but he had inexplicably not entered the temple itself. He turned to the shepherds and appeared to nod slightly. Before Shiva could piece together the information that he had just seen, he felt her presence again. He turned immediately to see her walking down the steps, with Kritika walking silently behind, still finding this rude, caste unmarked, obviously foreign man staring at her. She walked up to him and asked in a firm but polite voice, "Excuse me, is there a problem?" "No, no, there is no problem. I just feel that I had seen you before somewhere," replied a flustered Shiva. The lady was not sure how to respond to this. It was obviously a lie, but there appeared to be a sincere voice behind it. Before she could react, Kritika cut in rudely. "Is that the best line you could come up with?" As Shiva was about to retort, he was alerted by a quick movement from the cucumber seller. Shiva turned to see him pulling out a sword as he tossed his shawl aside. The shipyard and the man next to the chariot also stood poised in the traditional fighter position with their swords drawn. Shiva immediately drew his sword and stretched out his left hand protectively to pull the object of his fascination behind him. She, however, deftly sidestepped his protective hand, reached into the folds of her angvastram, and drew out her own sword. Shiva glanced at her, surprised, and flashed her a quick, admiring smile. Her eyes flashed right back, acknowledging the unexpected yet providential partnership. She whispered under her breath to Kritika, "Run back into the temple. Stay there till this is over." Kritika protested. "But my lady, now," she ordered. Kritika turned and ran up the temple step. Shiva and the lady stood back to back in a standard defensive partner position. They covered all the direction of any possible attack. The three attackers charged in. Two more jumped in from behind the trees to join the other three. Shiva raised his swords defensively as the shepherds came up close. Finging in a sideward movement to draw the shepherd into aggressive attack, Shiva dropped his swords low. The shepherd should have been tempted to move in for a kill wound, and in response, Shiva would have quickly raised his sword and dug it deep into the shepherd's heart. The shepherds, however, moved unexpectedly. Instead of taking advantage of Shiva's opening, he tried to strike Shiva's shoulder. Shiva quickly raised his right arm and swung. Another attacker moved in from the right. He swung from a distance. Not too smart a move, as it would merely have inflicted a surface nick. Shiva stepped back to avoid the swing and brought his sword down in a smooth action to dig deep into attacker's thigh. Screaming in agony, this attacker too fell back as another attacker joined in the fight from the left. Shiva realized that this was indeed a very strange assault. The attackers seemed to know what they were doing. They seemed to be good warriors, but they also seemed to be in a bizarre dance of avoidance. They did not appear to want to kill, merely injury. It was because they held themselves in check that they were being beaten back very easily. Shiva paired off another attack from the left and pushed his sword viciously into the man's shoulder. The man screamed in pain as Shiva pushed him off the blade with his left hand. Slowly but surely, the attackers were being worn out. They were suffering too many injuries to seriously carry on the assault for long. Suddenly, a giant of a man ran in from behind the trees carrying swords in both hands. The man was cloaked in a black hooded robe from head to toe, while his face was hidden by a black mask, shaped exactly like a human face. The only visible part of his body were his large, impassive, almond shaped eyes and strong, fleshy hand. He charged upon Shiva and the lady as he barked an order to his men. He was too large to battle with agility, but he compensated for his slow pace with his unusually skilled arms. Shiva registered from the corner of his eyes that the other attackers were picking up the injured and withdrawing. The hooded figure was fighting a brilliant rearguard action as his men retreated. Shiva realized that Shiva realized that the man's hood would impair his sight vision. That was a weakness that could be exploited. Moving to the left, Shiva swung ferociously, hoping to peg him back so that the lady could finish the job from the other side. But his opponent was up to the challenge. As he stepped slightly back, he deflected Shiva's swing with a deft move of his right hand. Shiva noticed a leather band on the hood figure's right wrist. It had a sharp symbol on it. Shiva swung his sword back, but the hood figure moved aside effortlessly to avoid the blow. He pushed back a brutal flanking attack from the lady with his left hand. He was keeping just enough distance from Shiva and the lady to defend himself, while at the same time keeping them engaged in a combat. All of a sudden, the hooded figure disengaged from the battle and stepped back. He began to tread backwards as he continued to point both his sword ahead, one at Shiva and the other at the lady. His men had all disappeared into the trees. As he reached a safe distance, he turned and ran behind his man. Shiva considered chasing him, but almost immediately decided against it. He might just rush into an ambush. Shiva turned to the lady warrior and inquired, "Are you all right?" "Yes, I am," she nodded before asking with a sober expression, "Are you injured?" "Nothing serious. I will survive," he grinned. In the meantime, Kritika came running down the temple steps and asked breathlessly, "My lady, are you all right?" "Yes, I am," she answered. "Thanks to this foreigner here." Kritika turned to Shiva and said, "Thank you very much. You have helped a very important woman." Shiva did not seem to be listening though. He continued to stare at Kritika's mistress as if he were possessed. Kritika struggled to conceal a smile. "I'm quite sure that we have not met earlier." "No, it's not that," said a smiling Shiva. "It's just that in our society, women don't fight. You move your sword quite well for a woman." "Oh hell, that came out of all wrong. Excuse me," she said, a slightly belligerent tone in her voice, clearly upset about the for a woman remark. You don't fight too badly either for a barbarian. Not too badly. I am an exceptional sword fighter. Do you want to try me? Oh bloody hell, what I'm saying, I'm not going to impress her like this. Her expression resumed its detached, supercilious look once again. I have no interest in dueling with you, foreigner. No, don't get me wrong. I didn't want to duel with you. I just wanted to tell you that I am quite good at sword fighting. I'm good at other thing as well. And it came out all wrong. I rather like the fact that you fought for yourself. You are a very good swordsman. I mean a swordswoman. In fact, you are quite a woman, bumbled Shiva, losing the filter of judgment exactly at the time when he needed it the most. Kritika, with her head bowed, smiled at the increasingly appealing exchange. Her mistress, on the other hand, wanted to chastise the foreigner for his highly inappropriate words, but he had saved her life. She was bounded by the Melhuian code of conduct. Thank you for your help, foreigner. I owe you my life, and you will not find me ungrateful. If you ever need my help, do call on me. Can I call on you even if I don't need your help? Shit, what I'm saying. She glared at the cast unmarked foreigner who clearly did know his place. With superhuman effort, she controlled herself, nodded politely, and said, Namaste. With that, aristocratic woman turned around to leave. Kritika continued to stare at Shiva with admiring eyes. However, on seeing her mistress leaving, she too turned hurriedly to follow. At least tell me your name, said Shiva, walking to keep pace with her. She turned around, staring even more gravely at Shiva. Look, how will I find you if I need your help? Asked Shiva sincerely. For a moment, she was out of her words or a glare. The request seemed reasonable. She turned towards Kritika and nodded. You can find us at Devagiri, answered Kritika. Ask anyone in the city for Lady Sati. Sati, said Shiva, letting the ethereal name roll over his tongue. My name is Shiva. Namaste Shiva, and I promise you, I will honor my word if you ever need my help, said Sati, as she turned and climbed into her chariot, followed by Kritika. Expertly turning the chariot, Sati urged her horses into a smooth trot. Without a backward look, she sped away from the temple. Shiva kept staring at the disappearing profile of the chariot. Once it was gone, he continued to stare at the dust with intense jealousy. It had been fortunate enough to have touched her. I think I am going to like this country. For the first time in the journey, Siva actually looked forward to reaching the capital city of the Meluhans. He smiled and started toward the rest house. Have to get to Devagiri quickly.